Hey, how is everyone doing? My name's Kurt. I'm a Daddy Draws. This is the Daily Draw, and we are here on Wednesday, and we are looking at drawing something that has to do with portrait work. And today we are focusing on the planes of the ear, planes of the ear. So, one of my I really like George Bridgman. I've always liked George Bridgman's work because I think he really focuses in on drawing planes of all kinds of things. Sometimes I would have liked to have been a student of his and actually hear him lecture, but that is impossible. So all we have left is his drawings and some of his notes. So let's take a look at some of his drawings of the ear and recreate them. And I think in the process of recreating them, we will start to try and see how he's breaking them down. And then I have some photographs for us to try, okay? And hopefully by the end, Cindy and Sarah, I'll get you to like the ear just a little bit more. Now, I have a particular process of things to look for, but let's not really worry about that per se. But I do want you, whenever we draw the ear, I do want you to be familiar with the Y of the ear. That's on the inside. Let me show you this here. Do you see the letter Y in the middle of the ear here? And let me just point it out to you. It's right here. It's the letter Y. And usually every single ear has that aspect to it. And this changes dramatically depending on the person. But we have a couple elements. So we have the letter Y. We also have the letter C. Look, the letter C comes around just like this. And usually the letter Y blends in with the letter C, right down here into the lobe. All right? So if you think of that, if you think of those two elements, the letter C and the letter Y, and then blending into the lobe, I think that might help you as you build up from there. Okay, so let's get rid of those markings, and let's first start off with drawing some of George Bridgman's ears. Okay, so let's start with this one up here on top here, and let's start off just with an overall containment, meaning what is the overall contour? And look what I'm doing. And if you don't get this right, that's okay. Just do the best you can. All right, just something like this. All right. Very flat shape right there. But now let's go into it and start giving it some depth. So starting right here, look, I'm going to create this edge. You see how he creates that ledge in his ear? And then, of course, he's got some nice surface lines here. Right here, it's going to turn the corner, and look what he does. He doesn't go all the way to the edge here. He turns it slightly, just like that. Do you see that? Okay. Then he's going to bring out this Y of the ear. So we're going to kind of come down like this, and then watch your proportion here. It's gonna come all the way down right about there. Okay, let's get the interior of that. You know, I'm a graphic designer by trade, but there's the anatomy of a letter is really interesting. This actually has a name, that negative space in there. I can't remember. I'll have to look that up, but that has nothing to do with today's lesson. I was Just trying to think of what this little space is called. All right, let's keep going here. We're going to come down like this, right? You see what I'm doing? I'm just kind of trying to take a complex form and just draw it, redraw it from another artist. That's exactly what we really do here. You're redrawing what I'm drawing, but it allows you to get an idea, and then hopefully you take that idea and you try it out on your own. And that's all we're doing with George Bridgman's work here. Look, the bottom of this Y has a little depth to it. Okay, then he has an interesting, very interesting lobe here. So let's come down here like this. Look, I'm just drawing the outside of his lobe here. All right, very flat shape until we put some shading on it. And he's also got this thing going down here. So you could see even down, look at this, look at that lobe down here in the bottom left. You know, he brings this lobe around like this. In my early days of drawing, I would do exactly this. I would take a lot of George Bridgman's drawings and just redraw them. It's an excellent learning tool. Really gets your head in the space of drawing when you start thinking of planes. Okay, let's do this now. Let's go ahead and bring up a picture. Let's start with this picture here. And let's think about what we just did and try and redraw this ear. All right, look, do you see the C? Do you see the letter C? Do you see the letter Y? Do you see how both of those converge into the lobe? So let's get the side of his face here. Okay, let's go ahead and just get the outside contour. All right, outside contour. So now, as we're doing this, I want you to think of stacking of forms, things that are in front of, look, my hand is in front of my face. This hand is in front of that hand. You see, it's a stacking of forms. So think of this ear that we're stacking forms from the back forward. And we're also keeping in mind how George Bridgman would use those planes. All right, so here's the top part. Let's come down here like this. And then this little, what do you call that? I can't remember. This little nub here, there's a name for it. Where's Lynn Portnoy when I need her? Lynn is our residence doctor who loves to create art. All right, look at that little overlap I just created. Remember, we're trying to break down these planes there. Okay, so then let's come in here and maybe get this Y. Look at now, his Y isn't quite defined, but we can surely outline the shape of the form. So it's gonna kind of come in like this. Look at this. And then it's down here, all right. All right, so there's the rough contour of that. Do you see that? There's the rough contour. Now let's look at that Y and break that down just a little bit. So here, look, this is kind of this you see how this nub is right there, and then it kind of gets close here. Now watch now. And then this kind of overlaps. Do you see that? Remember, lots of art, lots of drawing is just learning to see. Now and don't worry about erasing, just try and get the pieces in. If you could see the pieces, that's the beginning. That's the lower part of the Y coming right like that. All right, then we've got the upper part. Now let's go drop in. Look at this little area right here is very dark in shadow. Let's drop some value here. This will help. It will help our eye to go to the wider areas. Let's think of the lobe now. Let's look at the lobe. Look what Bridgman is doing with his lobe right there. Let's try and emulate that. And then look at this other dark part right here. Boom, just like that. And this area is all in the dark down here. We're going to just drop a darker value down here. And it comes in just like that. I probably made this one too dark here, but we'll lighten that up a little bit. Okay. How's everyone doing? Let's try another one now. Let's try this one here. All right, let's start with a contour. All right, so we're going to look at the contour now. I'm actually going to make mine a little bit bigger. All right, there's the contour, the overall shape. And do notice that I didn't really use any curves. It was just straight lines. All right, let's get that. I always tend to start with this part right here. So let's start with that. All right, look at right there. I'm going to put a slight overlap. You see that? I know this is a curve right here, but I'm going to chisel it out to make it like a flat plane. Targus? Is this the Targus? I don't know, that name just came to my head. The Targus. I think that's right. Okay, once again, we're just going to call it the Targus. I think that's right. Okay, so that's going to overlap right there. Look at that. Okay, then we're going to come down here. Look at this. Ooh, boy, am I out of proportion or what? That's all right. Let's get that Y. Let's get the rough shape of that Y here coming in like this. And then get the outside part of it. I like to draw the contour, and then once I get the contour, the shape, then I go in and change it to create form. So shape would be like if you were to draw a square, here's the shape. There's the shape, and then I add value to create form. And that's really what we're doing. Get the shape. All right, so here we are here now. And then this, look, it's very round here. And what's stacking? What's in front? So that's stacking right there. And I'm really off of my proportion, but that's all right. I'm just gonna draw right on top of it. So here's her ear piercing, just like that. Here's the underside of her ear. You see, I just kind of, this is the bottom of the ear, and I kind of put a line there to indicate the bottom edge, and then the underside, you see? And then that piercing would be right there. All right, let's get some value on the inside here to separate the Y. All right, and then look at this. This Y kind of overlaps there just a bit. You see how when I draw, I will make adjustments as I draw. So I'm always trying, I'll put something what I think it is in. It's a starting point. It's a starting point to build your building. Okay, the other thing you have to be aware of, this sometimes this part of the ear will cast a shadow onto your Y. So you can kind of see it with her. And let's just kind of, this shadow goes around the top there. Look at that. By making it round, just like that, I'm adding to the form. That shadow ends up being a surface line. Let's darken this back up here to make that pop forward just a bit. And we'll even darken it in here just a bit. The Targus. All right, great. Thank you. Look, there's some shadow here as well, and I'm going to use both line and value to really kind of show that. It's really difficult, just so you know, it's if you're looking down at a surface and it has no shadow, we're going to see that in the next ear. Sometimes it's hard to create that, but as an artist, we can do that. All right, so let's take a look at our next ear here. Okay, so this ear is, the light is coming really kind of from the top to the right. From the top to the back, actually, it's coming in from this direction. But there's not a lot of it. So let's see how we do here. Let's go ahead and go ahead and draw the contour first. That's the overall outline. And if you notice also, I'm drawing very I'm started off by drawing lightly, because I'm going to build my drawing up. I'm going to build it up. Okay, let's once again start with this outside C, outside letter C here. Weren't people getting their targus pierced for a while there? Wasn't that like an in thing to do? Or that's never been an in thing to do? Somehow it seemed like there was a little while there I started seeing a lot of people do that. Or do I just hang out with some interesting folk? All right, look, I still am going down this path of just kind of getting my contours, drawing the outline of things. Right into the lobe. Look at that. Okay, let's come back and think of planes. Where are our planes? Let's try and break this thing down here. All right, so there's the underside of that ear. You see that? How about the top here? What can we do here? Let's see here. Let's comes like this maybe, and then breaks down like this. Look closely now. It's not, this isn't like science. It's very interpretive what you see, but okay, look at this here. All right, we've got some value coming in here. This is almost, look at this. This is like a funnel. You see this here? Look at that. We could really get some great depth there. So let's drop in a little value now down in there. And this Y is a little bit darker value than the outside of the ear. So let's add a little bit of value there. All right, and that targus right here, right? It's coming around like this. And then his ear is right there. Now look at this. Look, I'm a little bit off in my proportion here, which is fine. I'm not gonna get upset about it. I'm just gonna work with what I got. Now I'm gonna add this little diamond stud this guy's got here. There's the contour. And then there's that right there. Okay. So there you go. There is 3 different ears that we just drew that we're looking for the planes using George Bridgman's drawing as a springboard. And this is a great way to really learn, is that when you take your reference, when you take like another artist's drawing and then you put a picture right next to it, and then you start to put together. In fact, I remember when I was doing figure drawing with Carl Ganas. He would say you have the figure, the model in front of you, and then you would have reference material right to your left or right next to your board, and you could see how other artists would render or work on a picture, and then it would be just like this, but instead of having a photograph of the ear, I'd actually be looking at a model. All right, that's what we got for today. Tonight we have our live class at 7 p.m. Hopefully I can see some of you there. Go out there, make your day great. Thanks for tuning in, Tony, Betsy, Cindy, Balkis, and Sarah. See you guys later. Okay, bye-bye.